more of those kind of questions, and there were less reasoning questions.
Less reasoning question. Okay. So
otherwise, but the textbook was still easy.
Yeah. So let's start with the first test, first paper there. When you went there, they gave you reading, right? Reading was the first. So how you felt about, like, there was 30 questions, right? And 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So how you felt about the paper? Lengthy, whether you were able to cover, or what is your view about that?
I was able to cover all the questions.
Okay.
And I didn't find them very lengthy, I guess. I didn't find them as lengthy as OC, right? Like the OC had very lengthy text, whereas this one had a few shorter texts.
Okay.
So I kind of found that a little bit better. Otherwise, there wasn't much that was very lengthy.
And regarding the vocabulary they used in the paragraphs, you were able to understand everything, or you felt any difficulty there with vocabulary or understanding the text?
No difficulty with vocabulary. All the vocabulary was something I knew, right? Or I've heard of, and I knew the meaning. So vocabulary isn't a problem. The difficulty of questions, it was easy.
Okay. Say. So what you felt like most difficult part in reading? Which reading? You feel like, and you really enjoyed. We enjoy solving difficult problems, right?
I would say the poem. The poem was the hardest.
Yeah.
I mean, you understand the poem, but the questions were hard to solve.
Okay. So you mean to say questions was a little bit, you need to deduct something to get the correct answer, or it was not straightforward to get the answer?
You had to actually delve in further, and you had to really think hard about the question.
Okay. So out of 30 questions there, what do you think? You have all 30 correct, or you think you may have missed something there? Because I think by this time, after 5 days, you might have analyzed yourself, what you did correct, what you could have improved, or what you could have done better. What do you think? Yeah.
Out of 30, I might get maybe a 20, 18.
20 correct, right?
Yeah, around 20 correct.
Around 20 average.
And what about the other 10 questions we have doubt about, they may be correct, they may be wrong? Why you think you are not sure, and what went wrong there?
Because those questions were those kind of questions where there was two very close answers, and I might have chosen the wrong one. I don't know, but I'm sure that there's 20 other questions which didn't have two very similar options. There was one clear option that was the only one that was possible if you read the text. So I feel like there were 20 of those, and there's only 10 which were two options close.
Okay. He initially told me that we went through each comprehensions. What do you think? So he's very confident with linked extract. He said, I will definitely get 7 to 8 correct. So we summarized each text, each comprehension type, and then we added up. It came to 24.
Okay, 24.
But it came up to 24, but his average for reading comprehension was 2021.
2021, okay.
Yeah,
see, it's a really good score. The thing is, what I focus is, if a student is saying 2024 is okay, but my 6 to 10 questions we're not very sure about. What is the reason behind that particular thing? Because every student have different difficulty level, and they face different kind of difficulty, and depending upon the category of difficulty a particular student faced in the exam, we can say on an average 50% will be correct out of these, or 30% will be correct out of these. So then we will do that kind of deduction. So that's why I thought to understand if you can tell me about each of these 10 questions, whatever you remember best, what was the difficulty there? Do you remember any question which you think was not correct?
I didn't have any problem with there wasn't any questions that weren't correct.
Do you remember any questions?
Do you remember any question?
I remember one or two from the link extract.
Yeah.
Right? So one of them was, which text shows a teacher-student relationship, right? And the other one I think was, which text shows that a student might have been unfair trying to be fair.
And you think like you are not sure because the answers are very close to each other, right? Like if there are four options, difference between these options was very less to identify which one will be correct. Like options are very close to each other, right? Or something else.
There were around 6 which were easy to tell. They were easy. The answer like popped out at us. Like as soon as we read the question, we're like, okay, it's this text or this text. Some of them I'm like, this text it talks about this, or this text talks about this. I'll choose this one because this one is more related to the question.
That's right. Yeah.
And there were some which were like very, very hard to tell. They were like, they said which text. If we use the question, then it'll be like, these two texts talk about the exact same thing, right? And there's no difference in the detail on how much they detail it. So I don't know how I'm going to choose this answer. One question was like that.
I'll tell you one thing we noticed with Smyan's reading comprehensions. When he gets any questions wrong, for example, he did the linked extract, 10 questions, 6 were right, 4 wrong. But as soon as you tell this number is wrong, he will tell you, is this the paragraph? Because his brain knows he has deducted 2 options.
Oh, okay.
Whereas the other option, like it has happened like millions times. Even though with narrative type of text, informative text.
Yeah.
He's very confident to remove 2 options. But when it comes to 2 options yes, there are some questions you straight away can remove 3 options and have 1 option select.
Yeah.
But whenever there is a 2 close answers.
Yeah. These are tricky situations, Smyan. These are not easy to answer for everyone. It's tricky for almost every student we call this divergence. When we have very narrow divergence between 2 options, like 2 options looks very similar to each other, it's really difficult to answer straight away. So don't worry about that. And the thing is, like, good thing about competition is it doesn't score you. It put you in competition, how your colleagues performed, how your peers are performing. So if a question was difficult for you, there is a very good chance that everyone might have faced difficulty there. So no worries about that. It's perfectly fine. And the next, I think, paper was for mathematical reasoning, right?
Yes, but I have one thing to say about reading.
Yeah, you want to say something?
Like, I do know how to tell between 2 options. Right? Like, what I do is, they look very similar, so I tell between them. This one means, for example, it talks about how there's gases. This one talks about solids and gases. And then I choose from there which one is more.
Which one
fits more.
Fits more to the question. That's true. Yeah.
Sorry. So that's a really good performance. I will say if we go from 20 to 24, it's a really good performance. So after reading a paper was done, next paper was mathematical reasoning?
Yes.
Okay. I'm more interested to know about that because that was my primary subject. Yeah.
The math was very, very easy.
Very, very easy.
There were 4 or 5 questions which sort of tripped a few kids up, maybe. Right? I remember this one question. It was, Alice bought a loaf of bread and 500 grams of apples. Right? The loaf of bread was $3.26. And the total price was $5.50. What's the cost of apples per kilogram? There were 2 options. I initially chose A, but like I wanted to be safe. I wanted to get the maximum marks from the questions I attempted. So I just checked over it again, and I saw it was per kilogram, and I figured out the price for 500 grams. So I times it by 2 and I got B, not A.
Because the question was per kilogram, right?
Yes, it's a per kilogram.
Yeah. Question was per kilogram. So see, during our session also, I always emphasized, please be clear about the units. focus on unit, what unit they are talking about. So out of these 35 questions, you attempted all questions, right? Time was enough, or you think like time was short and you need to rush through the exam?
Towards the end, 5 questions, they were very lengthy, right? But like, it's sort of funny when like the easier questions I sort of tend to get more wrong, but in the harder questions I tend to get more right, which is kind of funny. But I thought, these are easy, so maybe I should just double check just to be safe, so I can obtain the most marks the marks I'm capable of. So I did that, right? And then and after the maths, there was like a big break, 20 minutes, to like eat, talk.
No, the last 5 questions. Yeah.
Okay, the last 5 questions, they were lengthy, but they were solvable. They were like simple in concept, but they were lengthy to do.
Text was lengthy.
Like, were you able to finish quickly because you had less time?
I was able to finish those questions quickly. They were a little bit lengthy, so I only finished 2 of them. So I guessed
2 of them and 3 guessed. Okay, so
and one guessed, 1 correct.
Yeah. So what he used to do, I know, whenever he gave maths test, even though with me, I saw his pattern. He attempts and then he rechecked the 10 questions. Then that I made a habit because he used to make so silly mistakes.
Yeah.
So I made that habit and he used to do it. So the last 5 questions he has to rush, but at least the 30 he attempted, he made sure that he did it properly.
Oh, super.
So that's what exactly he did.
Yeah, that's nice. So whatever we practice during preparation, that comes to rescue us, or that becomes our, power, or our, that help us to perform better in the exam. So that's why we practice all good things during preparation. That's good. So out of 35, Smyan, how many questions you are sure that are correct?
31. Around 31 or 32. It was 1 I was a little bit doubtful. But out of 35, I might get like maybe 32 or 33 because during the break, we discussed all like the questions and everyone kept saying 34C, 34C, 34C. Now, so lucky I actually guessed C for the last 3 questions. And 34 was C, so 34 would have been correct, most likely. Right? I guess it might have been correct, most likely. So 33 or 32?
33 or 32. That's a really good score. So from the preparation point of view, concept was very simple for these questions, right? They were not very tricky questions.
No, they were very tricky questions, except there was a few questions which I had trip us over and make us lose marks, right? And it's kind of like those 5 questions which tell like the top students from the students who got easily picked from the questions. So there's 4 or 5 of them. So like if someone didn't see those 4 or 5 questions, right, or didn't look at them properly, then they could have lost around 4 or 5 marks, which would have separated and would make the Department of Education people easier to tell.
Yeah, I think would you describe that has happened to you in the past, right?
Yes, I made sure it didn't happen.
You made sure.
I made sure.
That's good.
Because I kept telling him the same thing, that he knows most of the questions, but he just missed out the marks because of the silly mistakes. The question he didn't attempted, I don't worry. That's okay. The question that you guessed, but the question that you attempted, that's the most important. You don't
It's very important for us to ensure that we answer correctly. That's good. And did you notice one pattern there, like starting from question number 1 to question number 35, complexity was increasing or it was random?
Not the complexity, but I think the lengthiness was increasing.
Okay.
Why? Like it was going from like I could solve in 30 seconds, or 30 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, to like ones where I need 2 whole minutes to do to solve.
Okay. And one more thing I'm very interested to understand, like if we compare in normal mathematics parts, addition, subtraction, fraction, and these equations, then we come to algebra, and then we come to geometry. Which part was covering major part of your test? Like from which, either from geometry or from algebra or from normal mathematics, like from where you got maximum questions?
There was quite a lot of geometry questions, right? There weren't any algebra questions that we needed to do. Unless you wanted to use algebra, then you could. But that would just make the questions much longer because there was options we could trial and error from.
Okay.
Right?
So you could save the time there from trial and error, right?
Yeah, I could save the time there. I didn't have to use algebra. So algebra wasn't necessary, pi wasn't necessary. And addition, multiplication, subtractions were 30 out of 35 questions.
One step, two steps, three steps.
Yeah, 3 steps. Yeah.
3 steps.
3 steps only.
Which was doable in the 1 minute. Yeah, in the 1 minute by the 1 minute mark.
Everyone's saying questions were really, really easy comparatively to the previous year or comparatively to what they do practice either from there are a lot of portals from where students purchase practice papers.
Yeah.
But the level of these practice papers and the level of exam was really different.
Yeah, it was very, very different.
Very, very different. Good. And let's come to thinking skill then. What is your view about
thinking skill? It was very easy in concept. You were if you had all the strategies in mind, you could do them easily, right? Within around one minute and a bit, right? But there were a lot of just ordering questions. So those ones took a minute and a bit, right? And it was very less reasoning questions. So you couldn't save time in the reasoning questions to do
because you have to
you have to work the ordering questions out. But there were very significantly less reasoning. So you couldn't save as much time. So even if you did as fast as you could, you still end up guessing at least 3.
Oh, 4. Yeah. At least. So you're saying around out of 40, how much you're sure that you have answered correctly there?
So I attempted 35.
35
right?
is really good score. I'm proud of you.
No, I attempted 35.
Oh, you attempted 35. Okay.
5 he guessed. And he attempted 35.
It was hard to save time.
Yeah.
It was those kind of
how many questions you feel very confident?
33 questions I feel very, very confident.
Confident, yeah.
And I always just checked back to see my working out, just to check if it was, not to check if it was correct or not, just to check to make sure that it was the answer was linked to my working out. Yeah. Because if it's not linked to my working out, there's no point of putting that answer in the first place.
Correct.
So I made sure that was happening. And they weren't, surprisingly, it was very different from the other years. The other years, I don't know if you've seen these questions.
Of course.
So there's a certain number of ducks and goats.
Yeah.
Right? And the total number of legs was X, let's say. So a number, let's say 235.
Number of legs, yes, yeah.
Those
type of questions, yeah.
Right? And there were this many heads, 132 heads.
Yeah. How many heads and how many legs?
No, that's how many were. And then we were asked, how many goats are there? How many ducks are there?
How many ducks are there, yeah.
Oh, okay.
There
so
weren't
that kind of question were there.
There were not any type of those questions.
They were mostly just ordering questions.
Ordering question. Okay. Good. So, yeah. So, see, 33 out of 40 is really good score, I tell you.
Okay.
This is really good score. And if you are saying 33 is correct and we say 50% probability of rest 7 questions, 3 more questions we can say are correct there, then 36 is a really good score.
What are these yellow ones?
I mean, it's...
I would... If we're on the safe side, it would be 33 on the safe side. But if we went to maximize the amount of marks, I would be getting at least a 35 or 36.
Yeah.
Because the other 2 questions that I was doubtful on, right? I only spent a minute and a half on those ones. So I had to move on. I couldn't do them again. Right? I could quickly check them, but that's all I could do. Right? Even though I was doubtful on them. Right? And I said to myself, if I have time, I'll go back to them. Right? It was question 31 and question 25.
Those are 2 questions you wanted to go back if you had time.
If I had time, but it's very tight time limit.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
And Samyan, out of these 40 questions in thinking skill, if I ask you how many questions do you remember correctly? The text,
Okay.
or you can explain.
The reasoning questions, although there was less, they were much trickier than the previous years.
Do you remember any question from the paper?
I remember like one or two,
One or
Like a
two.
few words of the question, maybe?
yeah, I remember quite a few. So there was one question where it said there was going to be two events in the morning, two events in the afternoon, and a Christmas carol event at the end of the day to finish off the day for Christmas. It was like a Christmas day because like there was something happened, right? But ignoring that, it was two events in the morning, afternoon, and there was one Christmas carol at night. So then there was these two names. Let's just go 1 and 2, right? So number one, person number one said, my father attended the Christmas carol, so he couldn't have attended. He only attended. I know my grandfather only attended two events, and one of them was the Christmas carol. So I definitely know that there was that he didn't go to the morning or the afternoon event.
Kind of.
So that one was correct because even though it is definitely, it's still like the logical reasoning. The reasoning still made sense. So we could like safely say that he was correct.
So reasoning question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Reasoning question, yeah.
Number two said my dad attended 4 events, right?
And if you want to
No, my dad attended 3 events,
then we have to go up
right?
into line.
No, it was 2 or 1.
Because
My
after
dad attended 1 event, right?
There -1.
And then, but the staff manager said that everyone in the town was there, right? So, and then she said that must mean that he attended the Christmas carol. They said that the staff member said that all the people in the town on the Christmas day attended the Christmas carol at the end of the day. So he said my dad could not have attended the morning and the afternoon session, and that was wrong because he still could do that. Just because they said that everyone attended Christmas carol doesn't mean that they could attend
The morning and
the
afternoon
morning afternoon
event.
because
Yeah.
they said one of those.
That type of the question, yeah.
That was supporting. That was like the reasoning. The supporting and the strengthening and weakening. Those ones are easier to grasp because I could closely relate them to the last 2 options that I have after eliminating. Right? And there was one question which I'm definitely sure of because there was three options which supported and only one that weakened. And the question was which one weakened. So I could choose that one. Then there was this other one, right, where it said that people should ban the use of normal lawnmowers, and you should put electric lawnmowers because they're more efficient and they have less noise, which disturbs the community less, and they also are more environmentally friendly. So I also one of the options said that
So no action.
electric lawnmowers are cheaper, right? And they're more cost efficient, which is good, right? But the other one said that 30% or about 30% of Australians, only around 5 or 30%, only around 5 to 30% of Australians had electric lawnmowers, right? And so what I chose was I went from, I'm like, what if I'm in that situation? And so I chose how they said only 5 to 30% had lawnmowers because, I mean, that even though that doesn't strengthen the argument, it doesn't weaken the argument either. It's saying you should buy electric lawnmowers, right? And saying only these many people have electric lawnmowers, which isn't good, and our economy is falling because of that. That's what the option said. So I chose that option because it had 3 reasons, whereas the other one only had 1 reason to support. Even though it was supporting the same amount as the other option. So I chose that one.
Okay.
Excellent.
So that was. Do you remember any next questions?
Nah.
And any type of working out questions if you remember.
It was a circular table one.
Circular table one, like someone is sitting here, someone is sitting here.
So it's like a circle, and then it was people
sitting opposite next. like
Yeah.
that problem solving, yeah?
Yeah, and those ones were easy to work out. There was like 4 or 5 of them.
4 to 5 of them. Okay.
No, around 10, let's say.
More than that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think there might be around 10, right? Circular table ones. And those ones are I'm really good at because like they're circular. So like even if I change the positions, if I rotate the positions,
Right.
it wasn't make a difference because it's still gonna follow the rules.
Right.
So I could like straight away put people on the circle, which made it extremely efficient because not only was I able to solve you 40 questions, but I was also 40 seconds. But I was also able to go back and check to make sure the answer made sense.
Right.
Right?
Right.
That's good.
So I was very strong in those questions. Rectangular table ones, there weren't any rectangular tables. There were more houses in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Then these people like drive this let's say 5 people live in a house. They each live in different positions. They drive different vehicles and they do different sports. It wasn't the exact same like driving and having sports, but it was like there was quite a lot of those ones. There were 15 of those ones.
Okay. And there was one time difference one, but that was in math, right? Not in thinking.
There was a time one.
There was a time one in thinking skill as well.
Yeah, so that question I was able to solve, and I was able to I just double checked the whole answer to make sure I was correct, right? Because I had saved time in my other question. I saved time in the circular table question, so I was able to like double check the whole answer instead of checking where the question or the answer was related, right? And at the end of the test, I thought that I shouldn't continue doing the questions because I might get the rest of them wrong if I put the wrong answers. Correct. Right? They said I could still redeem around 5 marks if I could just push the answer backwards. Right?
Yeah.
So I spent around 2 minutes, right? I attempted 35, so I spent 2 minutes. Just check whether I'd done the same one.
Correct. So you can go back, come back, go back.
Yeah, and then I figured out there was one question which I hadn't answered. So I quickly did it within 30 seconds, and I answered it. And then as soon as I finished, and I circled it on my table, they said time's up. So I was very lucky that I got that question.
That's good. See, I was just trying to feel like how far you remember your questions, and I'm so happy that you remember so many questions. And it happens automatically when we are very deeply involved with something. So I can feel like you were very deeply involved with your test paper, and you have performed very well. So good. So let's come to the last part, and that is writing. How was your
It was a newspaper report, which I remember. And I have like a very sharp memory of things. So I was able to I went to pre-uni and
division. Same
so
topic,
the pre-uni, and this year term 1, they had that topic, right? And e-division last year also had last year term 2 also had that topic. So I was like I read the exemplars, not before the exam, but like I read them, and I sort of have like a brief idea of what they were trying to do, right? And what they were aiming to do to the audience, right? 80% of around 80 to 70% was from pre-uni that I remember, and some of it was still from e-division, but like the length of it was from e-division. Like I had to write 4 paragraphs.
It's a long time ago, last year term 2, so you wouldn't remember.
I remember some.
You remember.
But I remember the first lead paragraph, like the first paragraph, the entire first paragraph from pre-uni's exemplars, from good examples. So I did that, and then I just analyzed the structure of the first paragraph. So they think that I wasn't cheating. So I could keep the same flow, the same tone, the same level of vocabulary. So I just analyzed it, and I managed to do that. I managed to make it like a whole new good example text, right, from pre-uni, and I managed to do that in time. And I had like 30 seconds to quickly skim and see if I had any, and I found 2 or 3, and I changed them, and then time was up.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So one thing to ensure, have you covered all the requirements of the text?
there was like a few points which said you should include this.
Yeah.
You know how we have details in like an email, we have 2 subjects. They didn't say anything not to include that. So what I did was I included all the details, like I didn't include the place line. They said the place line isn't necessary, right? Because they were going to read the whole text anyway.
Right.
So they said don't write the place line.
Okay.
But they said to write your name. They didn't say to write your name or anything, but just to be on the safe side, because they didn't say not to write it. So just to be on the safe side, I wrote it, like the name, fake. I wrote the actual day, 9th May 2024, right? Because that was the actual day I wrote it. And then I also had a good headline, and then I started writing. And I'm actually lucky because just in term 1, we learned about, my sister told me about who, what, when, where, why, and how to use in the first paragraph of the newspaper report. So it was like 2 or 3 weeks before the exam.
Yes.
So I was very lucky that my sister told me about it. So we did that. I did it. I did who, what, when, where, why. And then I delved, because if you don't know the topic was animals on the loose from your local zoo. So it said the animals are on the loose from your local zoo and have broken out of their cages. Write a newspaper report to explain the incident. And then it said you should include the impact on the zoo.
That's good.
Right? The impact on the animals. That's all they said.
Impacts on the animals and impacts on the zoo.
But in the actual question, I sort of used that strategy using thinking skills. Like, you know how you go, okay, they're talking about these reasons, so if they can relate to those reasons, then that would be the most strengthening one.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. So even though they didn't say to include the locals' point of view, I still included the locals' point of view. And the zoo part and the animals impact all went into one paragraph because like they were very closely related. Those two like concepts, not
because
concepts, like
ideas. Yeah.
So I managed to
include that in one paragraph.
Include that in one paragraph, and then I still had some time, as you might know, I had time to
continue. So you did the 3rd paragraph as well, right? Yeah.
But one thing I would give to anyone else who's going to do the exam would be to always plan their writing, because I've managed to do everything in one page. I'd managed to write a page, right, with like around 7 minutes of planning, because I thought, how am I going to structure this? What my ideas are? Because I should delve deeply into this, because newspaper reports are only around a page long, right? So I wrote the first paragraph. So I did planning for the first paragraph, and then I wrote it. I did planning for the second paragraph, and then I wrote it.
You wrote it, good.
And then I thought I should do that so that I don't spend too much time on planning and I don't get enough writing done.
Correct.
So I did a paragraph by paragraph, just so that I would make sure that I was doing the planning and I was
the topic,
and also doing the writing, because they don't look at the planning. So I did that. And I still had time at the end, as you know. But for the third paragraph, I wrote the locals, like the locals' impact, how the locals were impacted, or what precautions has the government taken to ensure the public safety. So I included all the possible impacts of the locals, and I managed to write that within 7 minutes. Then the third paragraph, I took 10 minutes because I talked about what the zoo is going to do about that, and so I wrote evidence about how they've had 5 breakouts this year in the first half of the year, and another 3 in the second half of the year. In the second half of the year so far, right? So they wrote what the zoo is going to do about it, because they can't keep having this, right? So they said the zoo. I wrote Taronga Zoo. Taronga Zoo has made sure that they train their staff, right, and
what action
they should take to prevent that. That's good.
To prevent, right?
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
That's good. And how much was the length of your text? Like 1 page, 2 page, or 1.5?
1 page. I kept everything very concise, but I elaborated in great
Yeah,
detail.
great.
But I still kept it, concise so that.
Yeah. Smyan, thank you so much. See, the thing is like I have another student waiting for me. I
No,
forgot
that's
for that.
I understand.
In the final part, if you want to share the list of your schools which you have selected, or you want me to analyze entire data and then meet again next week to go through your list.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're kind of
So
stuck on what
I'll schedule
what
another
to
meeting,
do.
short meeting with you once I have
Yeah.
data from all the students.
That would be great. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
I am so happy, Smyan. The thing is like performance, the way you perform in your test and the way you are explaining to me, I'm so happy with you. Thank you. Awesome.
And thank
Incredible.
you so much for your help. Geometry, it wasn't his strength. After attending your class, he was very confident
I'm
about
so happy.
geometry.
It's all my
Thank
pleasure.
you so much.
You're most welcome.
Yes,
Thank you. Thank you.
No
I
worries.
Take care.
would sort of I
No
want
worries.
anyone else who can do the text, because as you said, you might post it on YouTube. So anyone to give advice to anyone else, just tell them to be confident and tell them to do like some box breathing before every test and drink some water and go
Yeah.
to the toilet before every single test. That's what I did,
Yeah.
and I managed fine.
Super.
I didn't have to go to the toilet
Yeah.
to do the test.
It's just wastage of time in between the tests. Awesome. You are so well planned. Thank you. Incredible.
Thank you so much. Really
Take care.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.